Right now, here today we're going to talk about Java classes and how to create objects from a class and what are the methods or what are the variables and the members of a class, and then what is the constructor and how to work with constructors and methods. That's what we're going to do. Right now, basically, as you all know, everything in Java resides inside a Java class. Right now, we know that we start the Java class by declaring the class keyword followed by the class name and then the square brackets to define the scope of the class. And then class could be anything, right? Then, do you have any idea what is an object? What is an object? Right now, if you want to create a Java class, let me create a Java class. Right now, let's say I'm going to create a class called student. Right now, I'm going to create the class called student. Right now, here, I'm creating a Java class called student. Right now, here you can see there is a package statement because the package statement is because here this Java student.java file is inside the code package. Therefore, in order to represent the package, it says package code. Right now, it says class student. And again, you can see apart from the class keyword, there's another thing called public keyword is there. Public is an access modifier, right, which provide the access to the other classes to access the student class. Because if it is a public, if you define public access, that means any other Java class could access this student class because we have defined it as a public class, right? Now we will be discussing the access modifiers, might be today or the next week. Right, access modifiers. Now, for the time being, the class, we define a class using the class keyword followed by the class name. And as a rule of thumb, we discuss that when when you're defining the class name, start with the capital letter, we said. Right, even though you start the simple letter, it will work, but as a habit, you better start with the capital letter. Right. Now, curly brackets define the scope of the class. Now, in between these curly brackets, you can have all the members which belongs to that particular class, right? May I ask a simple question? What can we have inside these curly brackets? What can we have? There are only two things we could have inside this. What are those?
Variables,
Variables and
methods,
methods. Yes, variables and methods. We can only declare, that means class members. Class members are variables and the methods. Right, now let's define the members, the variables. Right. Now, when it comes to a student, right now, let's say I need to have a student to have a name, right? I need to store some information about the student. Then I need to have name. Then in order to store a value in Java, there should be a type associated with it. Then the name value, I'm gonna say that is string. I need to have the name and I need to have the ID. Right now, ID, let's say I need to have some, let's say, letters and some set of numbers. Therefore, I'm gonna say ID, right? And then name ID, and I need to have the age, integer age. Right now, these are the variables I'm going to have: name, ID, age. Right now, for every student class, that means for the class student class, I'm going to declare the variables as name, ID, and the age. Right now, right, name, ID, and the age. Right. Then even here also, if you want, you can provide the access modifiers. Right now, I will show you in a little while. Right now, these variables we call as the instance variables. If you want to write down, these variables you call as the instance variables. Why? These variables are declared inside the class, outside any method. Therefore, variables declared inside the class, outside any method, called as instance variables. Now, there's very important thing on this. Right now, when you create an object from the class, if you create an object from this class student, every object of the student class has its own values for these instance variables. Every object has its own set of data for the instance variables. Right? You can create 10 objects from the student class, and each object can have a unique name. Like you can have 10 different names assigned for the 10 different objects, 10 different IDs for the 10 different objects, because each object has its own copy of the instance variables. Right. Now, these are the variables. Right. Only now we can call this is a data only class. This is a data only class. Because we say class is a template or class is a blueprint which describes the behavior or which describes the states. Now here this class does not describe any behavior because this particular class not does not have any methods. Therefore, we cannot do any activities, any actions here, but it can hold some values. Therefore, we can call as states. It has some values for the name variable, ID, and the age. Right. Therefore, class is a blueprint which describes the student. If you create an object of the student, what are the values that the student object can store is described by the student class. Right. I want you to quickly create the student class with me. Quickly create it. Right. Now this name, ID, and age of the student class we can call as the class members or class attributes. Now the variables declared in a class, we can call it as the class attributes. Right now, if you want to access these class attributes, you can only do it using by creating an object. Right now, by creating an object only, you could access these attributes if you want to. Right. Now, let's create another class and then we'll try to access it. Right now, here, mm, you can have it in this. Okay, let's have it. Okay, even though one source, now this is student.java is a one source file, right? The file we have saved it. No? Now then we call as a source file. Right now, in the source file, you can have multiple classes. Now remember, you can have multiple classes, but you can have only one public class. If you have a public class declared, then public class name should be the name of the file name. If you have declared a public class, the file name and the class name should be the same. Therefore, you can have multiple classes in a source file, but public class name and file name should be the same. Therefore, you can have only one public class per file. Therefore, if you wish, you can have another class here. But you can't make it as a public. Let's say I'm going to have it as a test. Right now in the test class, I'm going to create a main method. Right now I have created a main method. Right now, my objective is to, right now I have created a class because now this class student has attributes of name, ID, and age, and no methods at the moment. Name, ID, and the age. Right now, we have created the class. Right. Okay, then we are trying to create an object from it. Object of the class student. We are trying to create an object from the class student. Right now, we need to create an object. Then how can we do it? Like now, we are going to create an, we are going to save. Like now, for an example, if you want to store a number, then the data type has to be right, integer, float, double, likewise. Because based on the, let's say you're going to store an integer, then the data type has to be an integer. Right now, I'm going to store the student class type value, student class type object. Then the data type has to be student. Right now, I need to declare the data type has to be student. Right then, student type, student type, student type. Then there should be a variable name. Let's say I'm going to name it as STU, student STU. It's like string name or integer age, integer ID, likewise. Now, this is the variable data type. This is the variable name, right? The data type of this variable is student, which is a class. Therefore, now you can understand, at the beginning we have discussed, there are two type of variables, primitives and non-primitive, or the reference. So, okay, primitive and the reference data type. Now, primitive and the reference data type. Now, this is a reference type of variable. Because why? I am creating a variable student which is referring to the student class. Right now, I'm going to create a class object in other terms. Right now, um, this one is referring to, this variable type is referring to the student class. Right now, here I have declared a variable, reference variable, and now I have to use the keyword, the new keyword, because I need to create a new object. And then I need to initialize this. I need to initialize this object, new object created. For that, I want to call the constructor of the class. Like I need to call the constructor of the class, right? Then you may have a question right now, what is the constructor of the class? Right now, remember in Java, when you create a class, when you compile, right, Java compiler will create a default constructor if you have not defined a constructor. That means every class has a constructor. Either you can define it or it will define automatically. Right now, then we call it as a default constructor. Now, for the student class, I have not defined a constructor. Therefore, now that you can call it as the default constructor. What is the constructor? Now, that is a special method, right? A type of a method which initialize the instance variables, or you can, other terms you can say, a constructor used to initialize objects. Then the constructor is called when an object of the particular class is created. Right now here what we are about to do. Right now we need to call the constructor. Then we have a doubt. What is the name of the constructor? Yes. Remember, the constructor name and the class name is the same. Constructor name and the class name is the same. Therefore, we have to call the student right now, student. And then, since it is a constructor, it's type of a method, therefore we need to put the brackets. Right. But you can't see there is a method called student is declared. Why? Because we have not declared it. Then that is done by the default constructor. At the time this class get compiled, the default constructor will get generated. Right. Then we can uh, create the okay. Now we have created an object from the student class. Now we can access the attribute of the student class through the object we created, stu dot name, stu dot, we can access the name and we can assign a value for that. John Doe. Right, now we can access the other variables as well. Stu dot id equals s01 and stu dot age is equals to 20. Right. Likewise, we can assign the values for these attributes of the student class. Right. Now, this is how you assign the values, and you can now you can print the values as well. Right. Now, if you run the test class, right now, how can you run the test class? Because I wrote both in the same. But now here in the student.java, because you know that the main method is the driver, therefore there is only one class declared with the main method. Therefore, this should run. Therefore, let's save it first. Now you can run it. Right, now let's see what's wrong with this. What does it say? Now main method not found in class code.student. Please define the main method as. Right, now what's wrong with this? Right now it says the problem is like the student class doesn't have main method. Yes, we have purposefully done it. Right, okay, now for the time being, we'll create a new class here for the test. And then we'll put this inside this, and thereafter we will figure it out what's wrong with this. Right now, otherwise we will not be able to complete what we intend to do. Right now, right now here we are done with this. Yes, now this is how it displays. Right now, this is how it displays. Right now, this is the student class. Now, what we did was we have created an object from the student class by doing this. Right now, at the time I'm talking to you about this, I said that now here we are calling the default constructor. We are calling the default constructor. And we are calling the default constructor. Right. Then, actually, what was the previous issue? Right. Okay. Why don't you guys quickly try it out and then let me figure it out. What was the issue previously? Right. Now, I hope you have done it already. Right now, the problem here is now this student class right now has no methods, as I said. Right now, let's declare the method as well. Right now, if you want to declare a method, we can say hello. Then the return type is void. Now, when you are declaring a method, you need to have the return type first. The return type, we can have whatever the value it returns. Now, this method will not return anything. Therefore, I'm going to say void. And then we need to have the method name. I'm going to say hello. And then we need to define the brackets in order to define it as a method, round brackets. Right now, void say hello. Right now, here inside the method, we can define the codes. Right now, I'm going to say student says hello. Right now, student says hello. Right now, this method is a member of this class student. Now, name, ID, age are the variables. We call it as instance variables of the student class. Say hello is a method declared inside the class student. Right now, from the test class here, now we could call the method as well. How can we call the method? By calling the object name dot say hello, the method name, object name dot method name, object name dot method name. Right. Quickly try out. Right? Have you finished?
Yeah.
Right. Then here now we have declared right now this is a class student. Right now, let's say now this is how we have declared the method. We need to have the return type and the method name, and then we need to define what should happen when you call the method. Right now, at the moment, I want to say hello. Right now, this is how we declare a method. Right now, this is how we could access it using an object. Right now, we have created an object. We have created an object, and using the object, we have access it. Right now, here we have to discuss further about right now what are the methods and how to have the parameters, and it's a lengthy discussion. Right beforehand, right now, I said that now, okay, if we wish to, right, let's say now let's forget about the test.java class. Right now, if you wish to use these variables and if you wish to access these values and the methods from the class itself, from the student class itself, what we have to do, we have to declare the main method because we know that main method is the only point of the execution. Therefore, we'll declare a main method here, and then we have to declare main method, and then we need to create object from this one, object from the student class in the same class. Right now, inside the same thing. Right now, student, let's say S equals new student, right? And now we can assign the values like previously. We can assign the values like previously. Right now, if you want, you can have S dot name equals to. Right now, then we can have S dot ID is equals to S02, and then you can have S dot age is equals to 18, and if you want, we can print S dot say hello. Right. Now, when you are calling the say hello, this would print say hello, right? Now, rather printing say hello if you wish, right now, like now, say hello. Let's say if you want, you can say hello. I am. Right now, I can say my name is. Right now, we can display the name of this one. My name is and then we could say so we keep some space and age years old. From ID. My name is age and my name is age. Right, let's say now, okay, this is what I'm gonna display. Right. Now if you run this, right now what's okay, the backup is missing. Right now if you run this here, now let's save this one, build it, and then we have added the main method for this. Now we could run itself. Right. Now the student class can run itself by making an object of the student class. Right now, why do we need to create a main method in order to run this variable, whatever the values of these variables, and then this method? Why do we need? Without the main method, can we run this? No, we can't. Now, because we cannot we cannot run non-static fields from a static field. Right now, that is why. because now we will discuss this later. How can we do it using a static keyword? We will discuss later, right? Now we could create an object from the same class itself and we could run it. Now actually what is happening, because at the beginning these variables has no values assigned. Now these variables have no values assigned. Right now if I make this as comment, right now let me make it as a comment. Now no values assigned. Right, then if I run this, now this would say name is null, ID is null, age is null. Right, now let me copy this. Now we don't need it here. Right, now if you run this, now no values assigned for the name, ID, and the age variable. Now you can see when you run this, it says name null, ID null, age 0. Right now, who has assigned the values? Now there is no values we have assigned because now these are instance variables. Right now, for the time being, here inside the main method, if I declare a variable called integer x, right, and then if I print afterwards the x value. Right now, if I try to print the x value, it will give me an error saying what? It is a variable x has not been initialized because the variable x is not assigned a value, therefore not initialized, therefore cannot use. Therefore, that's a difference between a local variable and an instance variable. Again, I'm telling you, these variables are called as instance variables and these variables are called as the local variables. Right now, even this variable you can declare inside this method as well. And if you try to print, if you try to print the x variable, here also you'll get the same error. Why is it? Because the local variables are declared inside the method. The local variables are declared inside the method. But remember, the local variables must assign a value before using. The local variables must be initialized before using. If you assign a value for it, no worries, you can use it. See, you won't get the error. Local variables must be initialized. Write down if you wish to. Local variables must be initialized because the instance variables are not like that. Then who does the initialization? Right now, that is the secret of the constructor. Right? Here we said the Java has a default constructor, even though we define it or not. The default constructor assigns the default values. Now, here we have not declared the default constructor. Right now, I'm going to declare the default constructor as well. Here, I'm going to declare the constructor. Then I can't say it as default. I'm going to declare the constructor. Then the constructor has the same name as the class name. Constructor has the same name as the class name. Constructor has the same name as the class name. Right, then what it should do? Now it will initialize the instance variables into default values. It will initialize the instance variables into default values. Right now, I'm going to say student created. Now, if I call the constructor, I'm going to say student object created. Right now, if you run the student class itself, now you can say the no values has been assigned for the name, ID, age. So this would say student object created and hello and then name null, ID null, age 0 because we have not assigned the values for these instance variables. Right. Now the same thing will happen if you run the test class. Even if you run the test class from here, the test class also would display. Right now we are calling the constructor. Then in the student class would display student object created. That would say student object created, and then we have assigned the values name Jane Doe ID. Likewise, it would display as we have given here. And when you call the say hello method also would display like this. Now this is what happens. Right now, this is how you declare the constructor. This is how you declare the constructor. Right now, why don't you try out? And then here we said that the constructor assign default values to. Okay, why don't you try assigning some values to these variables in the constructor and see what happens? Why don't you try it out? Right now here in this one, right now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to assign some values to the variables here. Okay, now beforehand, let's see. Right. Okay, now here what happens here is now it says the name value, ID and age. We don't pass the values, no? Right, now let me uh, remove these comments, and then right now this would display only um, student object created, and thereafter it would display hello, and then the values it would display, right? And the given values would be displayed. Right, now let me create another object. Let me create another object as x, student x, right now, but I'm not gonna assign any values. Okay, I'm gonna assign some set of values. Right now I'm gonna assign let's say John Doe as 0 2, and the above one I'm gonna say 0 1, and age I'm gonna say 25, right? And I'm gonna call the method. And the same time, I'm going to have a new one as well. Why don't you try this? Okay, now you can see here in the first place when you are running, it says and Bella is 0, 1, 18, a set of values. And the second one shows John Doe is 0 to 25 because another set of values. Now the third one has no values, therefore it says null, null, 0. Why is it? Now, if you can remember at the beginning, I said so, right? Now, these are the instance variables, and instance variables are initialized by the constructor. Now, here, now every time you create an object, it calls the constructor. Now, since the constructor is declared here, but no values assigned, and then it does assign the values as right default values. And then here, after the constructor initialize the values here, when you're calling, we are assigning the values, then those values would be displayed. Right now, what if you assign the values here, right now, if you assign the values in the constructor itself, right now in the constructor, you define the values. In the constructor, you define the values. And then you don't pass any values, right? Right now, you create the objects, and then right now you create the objects and then you do it. Okay, try running and see what is happening. Okay, now what happens now? If you run every object now will display the same values. Why? The constructor is assigning only the defined values. Now every object prints the same. Why? Every time when you create an object, it initializes these values to the variables. Now this is not what we want. No. Therefore, we will create parameterized constructor. Parameterized constructor. But beforehand, let's see how to do it for a method. Now this method just have the method return type void and it says say hello. Right now here I'm gonna pass a I'm gonna declare a parameter. Right now when you say I'm gonna say name says hello. Right now whatever the name you are passing here, gonna say hello. Right, therefore if you want to display the name, right now if you want to invoke the method say hello, now you can't just call like this. Now you need to pass an argument. Now this is what you call as a parameter. Here you have to pass an argument. Right now, if you want to pass, you have to pass an argument. Right now, if you run this now, here, okay, let's forget about these values. Right now, every time you create the object, what does it say? Student cannot be applied to given times lang.string, string name, okay. In line number 17 here, right? Found no argument. Say hello in class. Right, now we are passing value here. Right. Hmm. We are passing the name here. And the name displays here. We are passing the name. Student cannot be applied to given types. Class code.student. Code.student cannot be applied to given types. Required by string no. Right now, what's wrong with this? Yeah, let's try to figure this out. What's wrong with this one? Right now we are passing a string value. Okay. The local variable and the instance variable can be different. That is okay. Here you are expecting a string value. We are passing a string value. Okay, try out this and then whether you are getting the same error. This cannot happen, right? What's wrong with this? Okay, figure it out whether it works on your end. Is it working on your end?
So it's supposed to say, yeah, say hello and the name that's given, right?
Yeah. It's supposed to say
It's
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's working for me. John says hello, Anna says hello, Dave says hello.
Yeah, it has to be, but I'm wondering why it is not working on my end. Hmm, it has to work. Okay. Let's try it from this end. Okay, this one is working. Outside the class, it is working. From the inside, the same. I'm in the student class, then I'm calling student object. Hmm, You also have declared in the same class, right?
Yes, sir.
Now this is working. Okay, why it cannot refer by the object? So this can't happen as to my knowledge. I don't know what's wrong now. This is working. There's something wrong with my compiler, it seems. No, the same thing. Ha, right. Why don't we try the same previous? Right. Now this is supposed to work. Yes, it's working. I don't know why previously it doesn't work. Now this is what the exact code we had previously. Now this is working. Even the having the same name won't be a problem. That I will talk again later. Right now, this name variable and this name variables are two different things. But you can see here, when you select this name, this is not highlighted in IDE right now. But if you select this, now this is highlighted. Now these are the local variables, and then here the local variable is selected. Right now we are referring to the parameter we have here. Right now this is working. Right now what I want to tell you is right now how we can pass the values to the methods. At the same time, method may return something. method may return something. Right now, if method returns something, let's say if you want to return something, then return type has to be declared. Right now, if you are declaring a method is returning a string, then this method must return a string. Let's say now I'm gonna saying return, and I'm gonna say name plus says hello. Right now, because this one will return something. Right now, when you call this method, it won't print anything. This method, at the end of this method, say hello, it has to return a string value. It has to return a string value. Now, these things you have to right now call inside the system.out.println, because otherwise you won't be able to see, because say hello method is now returning a value. Right now, say hello method is now returning a value. Say hello method is returning a value. Right now, try this one as well quickly. Right. Then right now what I'm gonna do now is here. Now we know how method returns a value as well. And because the data type here you define has to be written. If you are declared as integer, then integer value has to be written. Right. Now let's define the constructor with parameters. Right now I'm gonna have the different names. Let's say a string X, the type of string Y, and integer Z. Right. Then every time when you create an object here, what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna assign the values. For the name variable, I'm gonna assign X, and for the ID variable, I'm gonna assign Y, and I'm gonna assign for the age variable, I'm gonna assign Z. Right, and then in the say hello method, the student says hello, and then right now here, let's say here I'm gonna change it to void method, and then I'm gonna uh say hello, and thereafter here I'm gonna print um, student details slash n. Right, and then the next one I'm gonna say name age and ID. Right, now I have declared. Now say hello method does not take, let's say, parameters now. I don't need it. Now here, let's say I'm gonna call it from the test class. Here, let's say now this is my student class. All right, now this is my student class. Right, in the test class, right now here, right now, here this is the student class, and here in the test class, what I'm gonna do is if I want to create an object now, I need to pass these values. Now I'm gonna pass chain do and another value string s01 and age 80. Right now, let's say I'm gonna pass values like A, B, C objects, A, B, and C, B and C objects, and then here I'm gonna say uh, this 0, 2, 19, and here I'm gonna say Smith S03 20. Right, and then here I'm gonna call the methods by a dot say hello, and the same thing I'm gonna call by the object names b dot say hello and c dot say hello. Right, now you can see here in this one right now At the time you create the object, you have to pass the values. Then those you can call as parameterized constructor. Right now, let's say I'm gonna use here plus. Right now, if I run this, now it would print on the same line. Right now, it has to be printed and here. Otherwise, everything would be incorrect. Now, this is how you create parameterized constructor. Right. Now, this is how the values display. Student details. First, you create the objects. Then it says student object created, object created, object created. And then student details will display like this in this format. Right. Now, this is how you do it. Now, again, the next question is, I want you to try changing these variables XYZ also into the same name as the local variables. Right now, change these into name, this also into name, and this also into ID, and this also into age. And here also name, here ID, here age. Right now, run it and tell me what happens. Right now, when it is a different name, right now as the parameter name is different with the instance variable name, now you can see name equals name1 works very well. Why? Because now when you select name1 means the local variable, name means the instance variable. Right now, if you have both names as the same, right now the problem here is now when you select name, name means only the local variable. Right now, this is the instance variable. Therefore, instance variable has default values. Therefore, if you want to refer to the instance variable from the constructor, you need to use the keyword this. Therefore, always use the keyword this in order to refer the instance variable. Use the variable this. Then when you say name, this is the local variable, but when you say name here in the instance variable, right now, see, this is the instance variable. Now, this would work. Right. Now, why don't you create another class called vehicle or animal or something, or item, and then have some instance variables, and then create the constructor and create some methods, and from a different class, create an object, and then try this one out. So quickly try out this. Have you done it? Right now, let me show you how to get these things done. Right now, if you want to create now, not the say hello method, if you want to create the constructor, right now, what you have to do is you have to declare the class. You need to write the instance variables, and then you have right click and then select insert code. There you have constructor. Select the constructor and select the fields you want and then select generate. Now you can see the constructor generated automatically. Right. Now we could create the constructor like this. How we can do it? Um, how we can do this? Write the string, whatever the instance variables, and then right click, select insert code, select the constructor, select the fields, click generate. Now this is how you can generate the constructor from the NetBeans. Right. Quick try that part as well. Right now here we have created the attributes or the fields and the variables, and we know how to access the attributes right now here. If you want to change the values here, after declaring this, if you want to change it, right now you can access by header name changes to Simon. Right now, this is how you access the values. Right now, using the variable object name dot operator. Now, this is how we change the value. A dot name says Jane Doe. Now we have changed it to Simon Ray. Right now, this is how you use in the by changing the values. Right now, again, what happens right now if you have values assigned here? Right now, let's say I'm gonna have final string name ABC. Right now, string name ABC, and then I'm gonna run this. Will this show the ABC? Right now, name declared as initialized as ABC, but here at the time we initializing, we are assigning a value here. Now you can say Simon Ray and Annabella and Will Smith. Now these are the values it displays. Right now, here this value won't display. Right now, I'm gonna set it as final. Right now, if I use the final keyword by any chance for any variable, now that value cannot be changed. Therefore, here you will not be able to run this file by the value here cannot be changed. Now we have set name equals ABC, then the ABC name cannot be changed because you can't change the value of a final variable. You can't change the value of a final variable. Therefore, it will give you an error because final variables cannot be changed. Then every attribute would display, every object would display ABC, ABC, ABC likewise. Because the field declared with final keyword cannot be changed. Cannot be changed. If you declare it as a final, then that cannot be changed. Right. Okay, now right. Now here. Right now what I want you to do is I want you to try um create a class called calculator, have some variables x and y, and create the constructor, assign x and y values, and have some methods called addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and then using another class, uh, create an object by passing this and x and y values, and then call the respective operation or respective method in order to get the answers. Okay, quickly do it and send me the answer via chat, please. Right now we discuss about objects. That means objects have states and behaviors, right? Now objects has states mean the fields we declared in the class. Behavior means the methods we declared in the class. Right now, for an example, dog has color, name, breed, and the behaviors like wagging, barking, eating likewise. Then object is an instance of a class. Then class, we could call it as a template or a blueprint which describes the behaviors or the states that objects of its type support. And this is how you declare a class. We have already done it. A class is created by using the keyword class, and the class may contain variables and the methods. Variables we call as the fields or the attributes, and the methods we have. Right now, this is a way of declaring a class. Then we can see this class only has some instance variables. Therefore, you can call it as a data only class. This is a data only class because no methods declared. Right now, in order to create an object, we have to declare a variable. A variable declaration with a variable name with an object type. And instantiation is done by using the new keyword, and initialization done by calling the constructor. Right now, for an example, if it is a class name is vehicle, you create a vehicle type of variable vehicle minivan equals you create a new object using new keyword and you initialize it by calling the constructor of the vehicle class. Therefore, every time you create an instance of a class, you are creating an object which contains its own copy of each instance variable defined by the class. And every vehicle object will contain its own copy of the instance variables. Right now, if we create a vehicle class called passengers, fuel capacity, and miles per gallon, and if you create two objects, each object has its own copy of passengers, fuel capacity, and miles per gallon. Right, and then this is how you do this. You have a class vehicle, and then here another class with the main method. There you create an object called minivan, and you assign the values for these instance variables in the vehicle class by accessing by the object name dot variable name, and you calculate the range by multiplying fuel capacity into miles per gallon, and you display the value. Right now, this is what we have done already, and reference variable. Right now, in order to create a vehicle class object, use a vehicle minivan equals new vehicle. Then vehicle minivan means you are declaring a reference variable. Now, this is what you call as you declare reference to an object. Therefore, this is a reference variable. Minivan is a reference variable with the type of vehicle. And using the new keyword, you create a new object and you initialize it by calling the constructor vehicle. Therefore, you allocate a vehicle object to the reference variable minivan. Right now, this is what we have done already. And I said that there are two type of variables, local variables and the instance variables. Local variables are defined inside methods or the constructor or the blocks. For an example, inside the for loop also, we have a local variable. Integer I equals 0 and I less than 10, I plus plus likewise we defined there. I equals 0 is also a local variable or a block variable. Therefore, local variables, remember the main difference is declared inside a method or a constructor. Declared inside a method, constructor, or a block, called as a local variable. Then, if you declare a local variable, it is a must to initialize before you use it. The local variable must be initialized before you use it. And the local variable will get created inside the method and will get destroyed once the method is finished. Therefore, local variables are only available inside the particular method. Right. If it is an instance variable, I said that instance variables are created inside a class outside any method. Inside a class outside any method. Then these are initialized by the constructor. That means when you create an object from the class, then those instance variables get initialized. Then these variables can be accessed by any method inside the class. Right now, any method can access those instance variables inside the class. Right now, that's what we discussed previously. And if you want to show again, right now, these three name, ID, age are the instance variables because declared inside the class, outside the method. Right. Now, for an example here, if I have declared another variable name for another one variable, let's say name ID address, let's say string address. String address equals, so let's say LK. Right, now here you can see I have declared a variable called string address equals LK. Right now here if I try to print address, Now the variable, if I try to access it here, I will not be able to access it. Why? I will not be able to access it. Why? The address variable declared inside the constructor, and then this is only available inside the constructor. This is available only inside the constructor, and at this point that is not available because this is a local variable is only available here. Right now, even if you declare the variable without using it, and if you try to print it even here, even if you try to print it, here you will get an error saying it's a local variable, therefore that has to be initialized, therefore might have not been initialized. Therefore, remember, local variables must be initialized and local variables are only available within the defined scope. Now here it's declared inside the constructor, but even it is not available here. Therefore, that's a local variable. Local variables must be initialized. But now these declared inside the class, outside any method, therefore this you call as an instance variables. Instance variable gets initialized when you create an instance of the class, and these variables can be used during the inside anywhere in the class. That is the instance variable. Right. Now again another point. Now you can have multiple objects from a class, and every object you create from a class, that every object will have its own copy of instance variables defined in the class. Therefore, every object has its own copy of instance variables. Remember that as well. Right. Then we discussed about local variables and instance variables and then the methods. Methods is a well-written Java code and used to perform a particular task. And every method has a name in order to invoke the method. And method has a type. That means whether the return type. Now method has a return type and a method name, and also you use the round brackets, open and close round brackets to define it as a method. You can provide any name for a method. Main is also a method, but that is a reserved method which start the execution of the program. And then you can't use the Java keywords for method names. Right now we declared methods called say hello. Likewise, now you can see here. Now, can someone tell me the difference between, right now, these two are methods. This is one is a construct, the other one is a method. By looking by these two, can someone tell me the main difference between a constructor and a method? Can someone tell me a difference between constructor and a method? Tell me quickly. A difference between a constructor and a method.
So is it that the constructor initializes the values and variables and stuff while the method outputs or runs a function?
Right. Now, what can you see in by looking at these two? Do you see any differences between let's say let me remove the body of each. Then, do you see any difference between the constructor and the method? Right now, let me remove this as well. Right now, you will see this. Right. What's the difference between What's the main difference between a method and a constructor?
So then the fact that void makes it so that no value is returned, is that it?
Yes, like now in the method, just a minute. Right now here in the constructor here does not have return type. Now remember this, constructor does not have return type and the method has a return type. Method has a return type where the constructor does not have a return type. Therefore, main difference between constructor and the method is the constructor has the same name as the class name, but constructor does not have a return type where method has a return type. Where method has a return type. Right. Then right now we know about the methods. Then the constructor used to initialize an object when it is created. Even though you define the constructor or not, Java compiler will create the default constructor. Therefore, every class in Java has a default constructor if you have not declared it. Therefore, every Java class has a constructor. Then constructor initializes an object when it is created, it has the same name as the class name. Then it is syntactically similar to a method, but it has no return type. You use constructor to give initial values to the instance variables defined by the class. Otherwise, constructor will assign default values to the instance variables defined in the class. Every class has a constructor because Java automatically provides a default constructor which initialize all member variables to the default values. And then here, right now you can see there's a class called my class with only one variable. Now this is the default, you have declared a constructor my class and you assign x equals 10. Right now in this constructor demo class, create two objects from the my class, we call in T1 and T2. And T1 and T2 has the instance variable x. Now both T1.x and T2.x are referring to 10 because in the constructor you assign 10 for the variable x. Therefore, every time you create an object, the variable x get assigned 10 for that particular object. Right now here, this is parameterized constructor. Now for the same class, here the constructor declared with a parameter. Then if you are creating an object of this my class, you have to pass an argument. Then whatever the value you are passing here get assigned to the instance variable. Now, what would be the t1.x and t2.x values? Okay, here, what is the t1.x and t2.x values?
Is it the value for 10?
Yeah, output is what? Yes, what does it print? T1.x and T2.x.
Oh, is it 10 and plus 10?
Yes, it will print both, will print 10 and 10, right? 10 space 10. But here what it would print?
Is that I plus I then?
Yeah, what this would print now when you run this
Oh, okay, right.
parameter
10 and
constructor, you
88.
10 and 88. Yes, t1.x would be 10 and t2.x would be 88. Right. And this is how you create a constructor. First, you create an object, right? And then you call the object reference equals a new constructor. Therefore, object reference equals new constructor means you create a new object and initialize it by calling the constructor. Then using the object reference or the reference variable dot or the object name dot variable name, you can access it. And methods also the same. Now that is how we access it. Like for an example, here we created an object references called abc. Then we have access by a dot say hello, a dot name. Likewise, we access the variables and we access the methods using the dot operator with the variable name. Right now, this is another class. Right, you can see the class called puppy. It has a variable called puppy age. Is this a local variable or an this puppy age? Is this a local variable or an instance variable? Puppy age, is this a local or instance variable? What do you think? Puppy age, local or a instance?
Instance then, right? So it can be
Yes,
found
it's
out.
an instance variable outside the class, outside inside the class, outside any method. Yes, this is an instance variable. And then here is the constructor. In the constructor, you have a parameter called name, and then name chosen is name, and then you have a method called set age, and there's another method called get age. Right. Now, if you run this class, puppy class, what would be the output? Can you tell me each line? Okay, here in this line, what happens? I think you can see the mouse pointer, right? What happens in this line?
Is the name changed to Tommy for the new object?
Here in this one right now, it creates a variable called my puppy, the type of puppy. That means you are creating a new object called my puppy and by passing the value Tommy. Then what happens here? Now this name variable get the Tommy value assigned because you are passing an argument Tommy. Now this value get assigned here. And then what will happen? This would print name chosen is, then this would print by the, when you do this, it would print name chosen is Tommy. It would print name chosen is Tommy. Right now, what this line will do?
That sets the age to 2 then for the object.
Yes, like now it calls the method set age by passing 2, then this age variable get assigned this value. Here we are passing 2, therefore that variable get assigned 2. Then for the puppy age variable, it assigned 2. Now puppy age is 2. And then you call puppy my puppy dot get age. What happens now?
It calls the method get age, and that outputs the age of the puppy with the
Yes. Now
text message.
this would print puppy's age is puppy age value, which is the puppy age value is 2. Therefore, it would print puppy age is 2, and then it will return integer value 2 to the calling method. Like it will return 2 as well because it returns puppy age, so therefore that will return integer value 2. And then here, what happens in this line? This would print variable value, and
Okay.
my puppy means the variable object name. That puppy age means 2. Therefore, variable value 2. It will print 2. Right now, that is how it works. Right. Then we have to discuss about the source file declaration. As I said at the beginning, there could be only one public class per source file. The source file can have multiple non-public classes. There could be only one public class per file because public class name and the file name should be the same. Therefore, the public class name should be the name of the source file as well. For an example, if you have a class called employee, if it is a public class employee, then this has to be declared inside the employee.java. Class name and the file name should be the same for a public classes. Then, therefore, you can have only one public class per file because the file name and the class name should be the same. Right. And if the class is defined inside a package, then the package statement should be the first statement in the source file. Now that's why here, right now, here you can see every time here. Now these classes are declared inside the code package. Therefore, package code is the first line. Package code is the first line because the class is declared inside the package code. Right now, let me show you quickly. Right now, one more thing. Right. Okay, then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to declare another package. I'm going to declare another package called code lib, 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 okay, lib. Right now I have another code called lib and I'm going to put my test file into the lib. Right now, you can see here, I'm going to name it as lib. Right. Okay, simple lib. We'll have it as simple lib. That's what I have given. Let me change it. Rename. It doesn't allow. Okay, right now what I'm gonna do is here. Now, you can see here. Right now, let me discard this and add. Okay, let me delete the entire thing. Right, I'm going to create another package called lib. And there I'm going to create a new Java class called test. Right now, what I want to do now is I want to create an object of the student class, to this method, object of the student class to here. Right now, let me declare the main method first, public static void main. Right now, here you can see the package statement is the first line of code because this is inside the package. Right. Then I want to use the student class, but when I try to use the student, now you can see here, even if you do not type this right now, if you are using a notepad, let's say, and then if you write student sc equals new student sc equals new student, and then if you try to pass the values, Jane, S01 and 10 likewise, if you pass values here, and then you can see you will get an error saying the student is not recognized here. Why? The student is not recognized. Because you don't know, because there's nothing called student available here at this inside the library package. There's no student. Therefore, since I'm referring to a different a class in a different package, therefore I need to say, okay, I'm referring to import, then my package name is code student. Import the code.student. When I say I'm referring to this student, which is in the code package, now you won't get this error, right? Then Here you can call the method, say hello, and then this would work, right? Then thereafter this would work. But now since you are referring to a class in a different package, then the import statement, you have to use the import statements, right? Then you have to use the import statement. Therefore, remember in the source file, first line could be a class. First line could be a class. But if there are import statements, then the first line should be the import statement, then the class keyword. And if it is inside a package, then first line should be the package statement. First line should be the package. Second line going to be import statements if available. And the third line going to be the class keyword, the class declaration rule. Therefore, if the class is defined inside a package statement should be the first line. Then the import statements, then the class keyword, right? If you don't have a package, if you don't have import statements, then the class is the first line. Therefore, remember, if the class is defined inside a package, then the package statement should be the first statement in the source file. And if import statements are present, then they must be written between the package and the class declaration. If there are no package, no import statements, then the class statement would be the first line in the source file. Right, first package, then import, then class. Remember that. And then what is the Java package? Now Java package is like a folder. Right now, if you want to put similar type of classes into one folder, then you can create a package and put the classes into one package. Therefore, that is for categorizing the classes and the interfaces. Therefore, you may end up, when you are developing projects, you may end up by having hundreds of classes. Therefore, because you can reuse the classes again and again, therefore it's better to categorize as suits, right? Therefore, now packages is just creating a folder, and then you can put the classes as the way you want to have. Right now, this is what I did. Right now, for an example, I can have all the codes inside here on the, if we have any user interfaces on the GUIs here, if I am connecting to the database on the, like the database connections inside another package, likewise I can have. That is how you can handle the packages, right? Okay, then we have to discuss about the access modifiers. I'm not going to talk about the access modifiers now because we have to talk about access modifiers, and there are in the next day. Right. Then if you have any questions up to now, you can ask. Please ask.